the magic number. Yes, it is. It's the magic number.
What does it all mean?
Hello and welcome to Flintoff, Savage and the Bing Pong Guy. That's me, Matthew Syed. Some more meaty topics. We're going to talk Sandpapergate, sporting humiliations and some of the charity work we've done. Remember, you can use the hashtag FredSavSide to suggest future topics. But before we get going, let's talk about what we normally talk about, which is what we've been up to over the last week. And Robin, Fred, you have had big weeks.
Yeah, we have, Matthew. Mine's gone from the ridiculous to the sublime, I would suggest, and the other way around. Yeah, that's the right way around.
What, sublime to the ridiculous?
No, ridiculous to the sublime.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously,
Just a normal week, then.
finishing the week sublimely with sport relief, but I want to start with what happened to me on Monday.
What happened?
Which is, I would say, the most
Sublime? Ridiculous?
abuse I've ever suffered
whoa.
in my life.
Ever? You was a footballer, you played at Birmingham, you played at Blackburn, you played at Leicester, played for Wales, you're Robbie Savage, and this...
And Titoff.
This is not going to be good.
Uncalled for, I think, abuse I've had. So basically, I picked Stanley up. I was going to watch a game of football.
Mm-hmm.
So I've come off the motorway, pulled to the junction. This car went past me, pulled up at the traffic lights about a mile later, 2 lanes. So I was on the outside lane. This car pulled in the inside, and he was staring at the car. So I said to Stanley, there's a gentleman next to us who's staring at us. And I thought, Stan said he's looking at the car. So
Which one were you in?
my wife's car.
So it wasn't like the Mini or anything. Was it like looking at the Mini thinking, is it him?
No, it wasn't the Mini. So anyway, the lights changed. He pulled in front, and then all of a sudden he put his window down, spat into the air. He could have just been spitting out the window. I don't know where he was spitting at, but it was...
Well, Jamie Carragher-esque or just a spit?
Or spit out into the air. So it was windy, it could have blown back. Anyway, I thought, well, that was strange. So I said to Stanley in the passenger, just film this, Stan. Anyway, Stanley forgot. So,
like he's forgot this morning.
And he's not here this morning. Stanley's not even here.
He's not put his clock forward because we are recording a little bit earlier today.
Yeah. So anyway, we then get to the next traffic light, and you can turn left, or you can turn right, or you can go straight on. So this gentleman decides to turn left. I thought, wow, this is going to be interesting. Into the training ground of Manchester United.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So anyway, goes to security, and then the next bit is to the actual training ground, and you have to go left.
So hang on, this fella who's had a spit, you're going to Manchester United training ground, he's driven in before you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I thought this is going to get interesting. Anyway, so I said, Stanley, this could be interesting. So this gentleman then stopped, and it was like a tight, narrow lane in the training ground, so I had to pull outside of him. So I stopped my car and put Stanley's window down the passenger seat and said, "You all right, mate?" Because he'd put his window down at this point, and he looked at me, and he's gone, "Wow, thought it was you. You are an absolute X, Y, and Z, and you must have a small
You see your nose.
What?
You saw your nose.
No, manhood. Manhood. I went, pardon?
So this is after he's recognised you?
Yeah, so yeah. So
how old is this man? Is he a proper man?
Over 50. I was, I don't know how old he was, over 50.
Gosh.
So he said, you must have a small manhood. And I thought, he must have cameras in my house. So I said, wow. I said, what? He went, you were tailgating me all the way. I said, pardon? I was tailgating you. He said, yeah. And then he launched into this abuse. He said to me and Stanley, I wiped the pair of you out. Like,
what?
Yeah,
What?
honestly, yeah, properly.
Did you not see Stanley?
Yeah, well, exactly. Proper raging. Anyway, like the most abuse, it was swearing, it was this, it was that. So anyway, I then put the window up and said, listen, mate, I basically told him to do one, yeah? So as I pulled off, he then tried to race me in the inside and then, like, was coming across me. So I had to slam the brakes on, yeah, which I've got on security cameras. He then pulls into the car park, and I thought, right, what I'll park out the way. So I parked about 30, 40 foot away, get out of the car. So I said, Stan, film. Stan forgot again. Anyway, Stanley walks behind me. So as I'm walking, he then comes through the cars and approaches me in the car park and launched into this verbal abuse again and said, I always thought you were a knobhead, on now, So
there's nothing warranting this.
He said I was tailgating him,
Right.
which I wasn't.
No.
Listen, I wasn't. And even if I was, the abuse I got was ridiculous. Anyway, it comes to the point where I then, what could I have done, Fred? You had the situation a couple of weeks ago when somebody slapped you. I was raging. My head had fallen off. I was absolutely raging with it. I wanted to fight. I did. But I said to the guy, listen, I'm in a position where I can't do anything. I can't do a thing. You're hammering me. I just had to take it.
Yeah.
And then as we go into the training ground, I opened the door for him. And
you opened the door for him?
Yeah, listen.
Wait, did you make him a brew as well? What are you doing?
No, I did.
Which just shows you're a good lad.
And he went, no, after you. He said, I don't trust you. I said, what? I said, mate. Anyway, then he goes in to the training ground, into a room. I thought, wow, this is strange. So then I go and watch my son. He's only linesman in the game.
He's the linesman.
The linesman in the game.
When he was confronting you, Rob,
yeah.
Did you think at any point, I'm losing my rag here? This guy is his provocation, and I'm going to show him.
Do you know, if he'd had a fight, if I'd have lost my head and it was exploding, and I'd have punched him, I'm finished. Robbie hits over 50 linesmen.
It's true. It's ridiculous.
It's true. But I tell you what, I'd have been in every right to have hit him.
But look, how is it possible?
It's ridiculous.
That a linesman for a youth game, somebody who's supposed to be responsible, somebody who's supposed to be able to deal with difficulties and controversies in a clear-headed way, he got that angry about... Do you think it was genuine anger, or that he was thinking, if I can provoke Robbie Savage, if he has a go at me, it'll end up on front page of the newspaper?
Where did you think you were going?
I had no idea.
He knew where you must have known where you were going.
Exactly.
This is the worry. But the
worrying, around Carrington, isn't it?
The worrying thing was as well that in the car with the abuse, he said, "I've seen you at the school your boys go to." Obviously, I went, "Really?" Anyway, to cap it off, so I've said to him, I've got home, told my wife what had happened, and I said, my boy had a tournament the next day at school. And he was only there as well.
No.
And my wife sent me a picture. So, so he was ref in the tournament. And I just, listen, I've got to say, for the gentleman concerned, in the game, he was great. He was great with the kids. It was not a problem. So I couldn't understand the two different personalities.
So he lost it. Basically,
he lost.
He had a complete...
Matthew,
the red
I
mist
don't know
descended.
the guy's circumstances. He might have had a tough day. He might have... I don't know what. And listen, he might be a fantastic fella. I don't know him, and I don't know who he is. But I've got to say, on that occasion, it was the worst abuse I have ever had in my life. And
What's he called?
Don't know.
Oh.
Don't know. A disgrace, Fred. An absolute disgrace, Matthew. So that was the start of my week.
Yeah, Fred?
Did it get any better?
Yeah, it got better.
Good.
Yeah.
Me, I've had a busy week.
Yeah.
Fat Friends of Musicals been in Manchester. Hence
Gone
I'm a bit
well,
hoarse. Yeah, it's been brilliant. Best crowds we've had. Excuse me.
There you are.
I'm a bit hoarse, though.
Yeah.
Best crowds we've had. Absolutely bonkers. Monday night, they usually start off a bit timid, and then by end of week they're at it. But Monday they started off like a train, and it was all week. Getting echoed, getting shouted at. It was...
Get your kits off, somebody said, didn't they?
Get me kits off.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, get me kits off.
At the end of the week, I've got to say, last night, driving home from the... I mean, the tough thing happened to me this week, and my family. My dad got very ill.
Oh, no.
So I was in hospital with him all day yesterday. An infection. He's about to turn 80. He got very confused, and it was quite tough. The care at the hospital, Royal Berks Hospital, the acute medical unit, was unbelievable. And a shout-out to Molly. NHS.
Yeah.
Is he okay?
Well, he's not well, Robbie. I haven't mentioned it before on the podcast, but he's had a couple of other infections where he's had to go into hospital, into A&E. And they say that when you get old and you get an infection, it's much more likely you start to get confused because you haven't got that amount of energy left. And it was really tough yesterday with him. But I was on my own with him all day, and it was just incredible to see... Molly, this nurse, and Raphael, who was another nurse, they were just so patient and kind, and it was just very moving. And I drove back to Richmond last night so I could come into London to do the podcast. I'm not in Manchester today. But this was the high point of the week. Okay? Two things happened. One, I'm listening to 5 Live, Roberto's on, and I forgot it was 6:06. This is on the Saturday night. And I was thinking, hang on a second, is Robbie presenting this show? And I know he's presented before, but I'd never actually heard him present. And he was I hate to admit it, because we normally hammer each other on this show. He was absolutely brilliant. The way he handled the calls, throwing to the news, the guests, really, really good. Then I got home and I watched you, Fred, on Sport Relief. And I'd had it on catch up. And I looked down on Twitter. Somebody you said at the audience in Manchester shouted, "Get your kit off." I'd never heard of this acronym before, DILF. It was all over Twitter.
A DILF.
Have you heard of this?
What's that mean?
I'm not saying. I can't say it on air, but he's hot. I'd have him. Get your kit. So you're wearing this suit and a waistcoat. Kathy, sitting next to me on the sofa, said, "I haven't seen Freddie Flintoff look that good."
Oh, no, well, I don't know what to say, Matthew. It's a little bit awkward, this. A DILF?
DILF?
What's that, like a dickhead?
How was it? Because it's, this is presenting BBC One, live, massive show.
It's been a strange week, to be honest, because Thursday night I did the show, Vat Friends.
Yep.
And then during the show, funny you talk about infection, I got one in my hand. And during the show, I felt my hand getting sore and sore and swollen. It started tracking up my arm into my armpit. So after the show, I went to hospital. I took myself to hospital, to Wythenshawe. And I was going to say exactly the same thing about the NHS staff.
Really?
It was unbelievable. You go in, they look after you.
Yeah.
I was a little bit embarrassed about going in, because sometimes when you go to A&E, unless you're pouring with blood or you've got something broke, you think you shouldn't be there. So I was explaining, I was saying, look, the only reason I've come, I was trying to, because I've got the sport leave tomorrow night. And so I was in there a couple of hours, and the staff were amazing. Checked me out.
So an infection in your hand?
I got an infection in my hand. It was tracking up my arm. I've had blood clots before, so I was a bit concerned.
Yeah.
I could barely pick my arm up, but looked after us. So I got home, spoke at a breakfast at 8 o'clock on Friday morning. I got in about 3. And then I had Fat Friends on Friday. And then the good thing is, I think because my week's been so busy, I've not had time to think. And I was turning up to Sport Relief, and Clyde, who we did the tour with, he's a producer on Sport Relief, was in the car. And it dawned on me, I said to him in the car, I said, this is quite a big show, this, isn't it? Because I was looking online, and there's only about 5 presenters. And I said, this is quite a big deal, this, isn't it, Sport Relief, like as a show to present for your first one live on telly.
Yeah.
Massive.
So I turned up, and I was flagging a little bit. I was a little bit tired. So I had half a pint of coffee with 8 sachets of coffee in, right?
Half a pint of coffee.
So I've necked this coffee, and just as I've got it down, I've got in my ear, Fred, you've got 30 seconds, where are you? So I had to run all round backstage. I get to the top of the steps, the 2 doors are opening, I stood next to Davina. I realised I got my phone in my pocket. So I pulled my phone out of my pocket, I just threw it somewhere to the right. It started going downstairs.
That happened just before you went down the stairs? Because I saw you looking to the right.
I was trying to get rid of my phone, right, because I was in a rush. And then, as I'm coming down the stairs into the boxing ring for the opening link, everything's caught up with me, running round. I've started to sweat. The coffee's kicked in. So I'm doing my first link, and I'm started watching Megan Trainor and I've started dancing, so I've started sweating up. So Donald who did my makeup, he's patting my head and trying to get me. But sorry, I didn't really have any time to be nervous, and I got my first link out the way and felt a lot better about it.
You've done a great job, Emma.
Fantastic.
But do you know the nice thing about it is Sport Relief. Obviously, all the money it's raised, and it's a fun night. But I think in some ways the pressure's on because there's a big audience and it's this, that, and the other. But it's also off in some ways, because it's not about you. It's about the show. It's about raising money. You know, people are watching, which is fine. But I really enjoyed it, actually. Davina was amazing. Just looked after us all the way through. But I fell over a pyrotechnic. I tripped over a pyrotechnic again. I have to be careful with them. I kept fluffing my lines. I tried to say a line about Robbie. It was about he's playing football for 12 hours. Usually it takes Robbie 12 hours to pluck his eyebrows. I couldn't say eyebrows, but yeah, it was good. And I think it's something to be a part of was amazing.
Fantastic. And Robbie, you're saying you got to a sublime moment at the end of the week. You're talking Sport Relief as well.
Yeah, Sport Relief. So the 12-hour 5 live aside, out just in front of the BBC here, I've got to say, Matthew, my body is now really struggling. I might have to go for an extra on my foot. I think I might have done a metatarsal. Really can't even put my weight on my right foot hardly. So, what you put your body through to raise money. And it's amazing once again that you do all this stuff for charity, for great causes, and the first couple of tweets you get are people hammering you, which is like amazing.
No,
to think
really?
To think of
Probably the linesman,
the idiots out there. But my team was amazing.
Some of them were. Some of them. I've got a bone to pick with one of them.
Who?
I know him well. He captained me. He's got a false head of hair.
Who?
Who do you think he is? Who do you think he is?
Michael Vaughan.
Yeah. Well,
he's got a great goal.
I'm not bothered because I heard on the grapevine he had 6 massages. He couldn't get off the massage table. I heard on the grapevine that he popped in for a couple of hours and then came back just to be at one show. That's why I heard he was just hanging around and then didn't do much, and then cameras are on and he did a David May at United.
That's harsh, mate. That's harsh.
Wish you told me.
He said, "Look at his face here." I've got to say, Matthew.
Go on, say it.
The effort from everybody involved, Sam Quirk, Rachel Yankee, Kirsty Gallagher, Harry Judd,
Michael Vaughan a little bit.
Michael Vaughan,
when you were there,
everybody who took part. The idea was I had to play the 12 hours. All the rest could come on and off, and it was very difficult.
You was on
hours,
for a full 12.
I had one toilet break for about 3 or 4 minutes.
Number 1 or number 2? Just trying to gauge how long your break was.
Number 1. And because you're playing on concrete, Matthew, and the flooring they put down is very, very thin, the impact on your feet and my body, this is when all the years of broken legs, broken neck, knee injuries come back to you. And I don't think some people realise that, what you put your body through to raise money.
Demanding.
And I'll do it again and again. That's my 3rd challenge now. Hopefully I haven't got this total from this one, but that's probably about £2 million over 3 challenges I've raised with other people, and so that's quite a good way to talk about charity.
Well, it's a good way to get into topic number 1.
I think. Do you know when they send the money over to these foreign countries? Yeah. They're going to send a video of Robbie playing football to show them what you've been through. And these people are going to be saying, "Oh my word, I can't believe it! I can't believe he's done that for us. He's played football for 12 hours. I've got to walk 3 days to get some water." But Robbie Savage, he's put himself out there. It's on concrete as well. He's done it on concrete outside the BBC, and he's even got a pool in metatarsal.
See, well, you want
to appreciate it.
You know what I mean, Matthew, don't you? You know what I mean.
I'm joking, Rob.
Oh, that's brilliant. But topic number 1, let's go through some of the ridiculous, funny, extreme things we've done for charity. Because I was conscious, Fred, that night you drank. If anyone didn't see Sports Relief on Saturday night, you drank was it a pint of gravy?
Do you know why?
Did you?
No, because
didn't you see it?
There was this segment about making Davina a bit more northern, so we got a flat cap on her and a hot pot, and then brought out a pint of gravy. So I had a swig of it. I like gravy. So I was just swigging the gravy doing my link. But you know the worst thing about it was there was this massive hair in it. So I was live on telly and I had a mouthful of gravy and then I had to pull like this hair out. And then put it on. Oof. But no, it was fun. But joking aside with what Rob did, it was unbelievable.
It was hard.
But the thing about it is, the nice thing about Sport Relief on a night like that is that everyone turns up. There's a real nice buzz to it because everyone's just getting on with it. Everyone's mucking in. You speak to people you wouldn't necessarily speak to. Yeah. And then they get the guys who've done the challenges on. Like I was in awe of Zoe Ball. I thought she was
That was an amazing segment.
Because the thing is, because it's mental health, it's something which is close to me, to be on there and see her face, because what's happened to her with a boyfriend committing suicide is still very raw. And then to see over £1 million raised, and to be there for that was something special, because she's absolutely amazing.
The toughest thing I'd done, which I'd never actually finished, was Kilimanjaro. That was, because I am associated with a bookmaker.
How long did it take you to get to the top of Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, well, I didn't actually get there.
Did you? Why? Was it shut?
Out of shoe sickness.
Out of shoe sickness. You don't have shoes on.
Sickness. Out of shoe sickness.
So you could get to the top.
Yeah, but
was that the year Cheryl Cole got to the top?
No, that was before me. But
Did you not think as you were getting up there, that girl with them roses on her ass has done this and I can't do it?
It was quite embarrassing, really, that, when I was going down, there was I think there was 23 people from Leicester going on the way up.
You had to pass them.
Yeah, I had to pass them on the way down. They were, that's Robbie Savage there coming down, getting carried down. Yeah.
You're getting carried down by a Sherpa.
A Sherpa too.
A 4'8" Sherpa with you on his shoulders.
It was hard to
What
take.
were the symptoms of altitude sickness?
So dizziness, it felt like my head was going to explode, sickness, coughing up pink liquid. Honestly, It was horrific, I've got to say. So you climb for so many thousand feet.
How far did you get up?
Over 3 or 4 days.
You're not getting any
three quarters, and then all of a sudden you have to go down. You have to get below 3,000 feet as quickly as you can. So they rush you down, and then I went to I think it was a 5-star hotel for 3 days when everybody else finished it, recovering. But it was for responsible gambling, Matthew, because obviously, it's important to tell people about if they do gamble responsibly.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing I'd done. So that was very difficult.
It was nearly a good thing.
Nearly, yeah. It only me.
You only got that last quarter.
But they say if you're overweight, if you're a smoker, you've got more chance of getting to the top because. I don't know what it is.
There, then.
Yeah.
It'd take me half an hour.
That's what they say, I think. There's a science. Is there a science behind it, Matthew? Because I was an athlete, my lungs would have needed more oxygen when I played. My lungs would be used to more oxygen. So the less oxygen you're used to, the better chance you have of getting up to the top. I
don't know.
Believe. Yeah, is that right?
Yes, that sounds plausible, Rob.
Does it?
Yeah,
I think that's right. I
but
might be wrong.
It also sounds serious. I mean, if you're coughing up pink liquid.
Oh, Matthew, altitude sickness, you can die from it.
Yeah. Well, me and Fred have got so little sympathy.
You can.
That was obviously serious. And
obviously, I wanted to stay and I wanted to get to the top, but I was told I can't. I wasn't allowed.
Was it like a walk of shame? It must have been a walk of shame on the way.
It was.
Was it like you go to Pleasure Beach and then someone's queuing and there's a massive ride and they get to the front and they get there and they think, I can't do it, I can't go on that. And then you've got that, the indignity of walking past the rest of the queue as an adult and everyone's pointing going, he couldn't do it.
To be fair, it was when John and Mike, the year we were 74 and 78, said, I'll see you, Robbie. With a fag in his mouth.
It was 28 stone.
That wasn't great. You've got your foundation, haven't you?
I used to. I did the foundation, didn't I? I had a testimonial year in 2006. Yeah. And give some money to charity through that.
Raised over £1 million, didn't you?
But then we set the charity up afterwards and we built this unit at Alderhay Children's Hospital, physio and rehab. We did Birmingham and then we give like 1.3 million to Great Ormond Street. But it was good. But I cycled from Athens to London.
That's right.
Which was ridiculous.
Wow.
We didn't do a direct route. We went through the Alps. And I'd not been on a bike. I didn't train. I just thought it's just pedaling, innit? So the first week through Greece was awful. I was probably about 18 stone, just sweating on a bike. And then went through the Alps and got fitter on the way around. But I used to refuel with about 10 pints every night. Because every night you're hosting a dinner, aren't you? We did dinners every night. Mm-hmm. So some nights you were getting in at 2, then you were back on the bike at 6.
You refueled with 10 pints.
It was hardcore, but I enjoyed it. And then the nice thing, I've done the mental health stuff and still involved with that, but sport release has been something I've been involved in every time now. I've done a few challenges. Mm-hmm. But, we have a laugh at Rob. And we have a go at him. But it was amazing what you did.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I just think it's humbling to be in a position where, I do get a lot of stick, but do you know what? And when you get tweets having a go at you,
unbelievable,
is ridiculous, really. But yeah. I'm in a position where the three of us are that we can affect people's lives by giving up our time, and it's humbling to think that these programs we used to watch as on the TV, we can now change people's lives by getting involved, and that's a great feeling, Matthew. So I don't care how much criticism I ever get. I know by helping people and I'm changing people's lives with giving up my time, as we all do, which is great.
Fantastic. Topic number 2?
Yeah.
So we're recording this a day after the incredible news broke that Cameron Bancroft was caught by TV cameras taking what he said was yellow tape out of his trouser pockets before rubbing the ball. Captain Steve Smith admitted in an extraordinary press conference that this had been discussed by the leadership group, so it's premeditated. What is our take on what can only be described as cheating? What should happen next? Fred, what's your perspective on this? Because it's probably the biggest story in cricket for months.
It is, and how sad is that? how
Takes
sad...
the pressure off England getting balled out for 58.
Yeah. But how sad is that? The biggest story in cricket is some lad's got a bit of tape in his pants and he's rubbing his balls. let's be honest. You know what? It's a bizarre story. Mm-hmm. I hate the fact that something like this then gets cricket in the public eye rather than actually cricket standing on its own 2 feet. When it comes to this, I'm not going to condone what the Australians have done or condone cheating, but I think now's the time to address quite a few things, because you talk about ball tampering and some of the things that we did, whether it be putting sweets on the ball or throwing it into the dirt to affect it, or squeezing it in a one-day game so they can't hit it as far. This is completely different in the fact he's taken something out onto the pitch to affect the ball. I don't understand what's gone on in the dressing room. But I think this is a time now where everything needs addressing. You have a ball tampering or you're not ball tampering. Let's draw a line and start moving on. I'm a bit mixed on it, to be honest, because what happens in cricket, you get a story like this and it's an opportunity for everyone to get the knickers in a twist and everyone to start saying, oh, this, that and the other. And because it's the Aussies and Steve Smith, it's very easy to jump all over it, and people will. I've probably not got as big a problem with it as a lot of people.
Really?
I'm torn a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's very thick. I think it's embarrassing more than anything for the people who are involved, and it's absolutely thick. They don't realise there's a camera on every angle now. There's cameras all over the place. There's slow-mos. There's commentators. And I think what the argument then, not an argument, but I think the debate is, to what extent are you cheating?
Yep.
Because we've heard all types of stories about ball tampering, and ball tampering is a vague one. Because you want the ball either very shiny to swing, or you want one side very rough to reverse swing. So what that means to the layman is the ball swings, right? So there's all different ways in which you can do it. Remember years ago we got accused of putting sweets on the ball.
Yeah, I remember that.
So we'd be sucking on Murray mints and then getting it in your saliva, rubbing the ball and getting it shinier, so it'll swing.
So it does swing.
Is that ball tampering? Is that ball tampering? I don't know.
Well, saliva has been used since the beginning of cricket, right? To get the ball.
Saliva's been used since the beginning of time, Matthew.
Right.
Not with Murray mints.
They've always had it.
But the Murray mints is the additional thing, right?
Yeah, and Murray mint, sun cream, Lipsil on your lips.
Really?
All these things that can somehow get onto the ball. To get it to reverse swing as well. If you watch a game of cricket, the players now, on the ends of the pitches where the ball's footmarks are, and you've got old pitches, they're usually quite really dry and coarse. So the rules of the game really should throw the ball onto the full into the wicket-keeper's glove so it don't bounce. You watch them, they're fizzing them into these rough ends to try and change the shape of the ball.
Yep.
Right.
Is that ball tampering? In one-day cricket, the white ball used to go softer, quicker. So you start off, you got a brand new ball, it's hard. So in limited overs or 2020, it comes off the bat a lot quicker so you can hit it harder. So the key in a 50-over game was to get the ball as soft as possible. So the second half, it's harder to hit and sticks on the bat. I used to squeeze it. You could squeeze it and you could get a bit of a thing on it. And if you watch, a lot of the lads have two hands pushing it in together. So all these things have gone on all over time. And I think it's now an opportunity to address everything.
Because it's actually, listening to you, where do you draw the line? If I was to say yes or
what's
no...
what's gamesmanship? What's gaining them little... What's them gains? This is what we've seen is cheating. There's no two ways about it. He's cheated. I think my point is, at what extent does it become cheating?
Okay, well, let's do a few yes or no's. So, using saliva, which has been used in cricket...
You can't not do.
Okay, that's fine. What about using saliva when you've been sucking on a Murray mint? If you were making the rule...
Depends. If I've got bad breath.
What about sun cream? How would you feel about that? You know,
I'm part ginger. I don't want to burn.
well, exactly. So it's inevitable. You're going to have some on your hands, and if you're rubbing the ball, it's going to end up on the ball.
Yeah, and on purpose. It's not so much sun cream. It's more the lip stuff.
Matthew, let's get it right here. Is Steve Smith's job now untenable? Because for me, the ball tampering, okay, they've tried to get away with, they've got caught. But knowingly doing it, am I right to say that the captain and the senior people knew they were going to do it?
Yeah, they discussed it in what is apparently called the leadership group.
I think the lead.
That's that for me.
This is. I think this is the thing more than anything is the fact that it's not a subtlety of your sun cream. It's not a subtlety of sucking on a mint. It's actually they've had a meeting and they've sat down and they've thought, you know, it's a really good idea here.
Let's gain an advantage.
Was it sandpaper? Was it tape? Coarse tape?
Some yellow tape, apparently.
But whatever it is, let's get some of that and let's get it out there. Which I find the most staggering part. Yeah. If they're going to do it, don't have a leadership group. Just have a quiet word.
Who's at fault, Matthew? Here, do you think? Do you think is it Bancroft, the guy who actually done it? No. Is it?
For me, it's a power
Steve
dynamic.
Smith.
You've got Steve Smith and the leadership group, the experienced players who've hatched a plan. Apparently Bancroft was near them at the time the plan was hatched. And then they bring him in to say, you now have to go in front of the cameras of the world with the risk to your reputation, the person in the firing line, and you have to do it. And he accepted their edict that he should go out and do what he did. He said in the press conference that he was really nervous because he knew the amount of scrutiny on Test cricket and there was a risk that he would be discovered. So I agree with Fred completely that stupidity is absolutely something that can be levelled at the Australians. I also think that in the grey areas, this is black and white. This is clearly cheating. But what struck me, Fred, about what you were saying, I don't know if you agree, Rob, that, you know, you can sort of think of the psychology here. People are saying, OK, we're using saliva. We've been sucking sweets, you know, a bit of sun cream or a bit of lip balm on the hands, and you can put that in. No one really says anything. We're throwing the ball in at the crease, and it's hitting the rough patch, and that's roughing it up. And they're probably thinking, given that we've been pushing all the way into these grey areas, maybe we can go that step further. Doesn't legitimate it at all. It's still completely out of order. And by the way, it's not just the English and other nations who are saying that it's out of order. The Australian press have been absolutely larruped Steve Smith, and they're saying he should resign. But I think it's interesting to hear Fred's perspective that there are a lot of grey areas in the entire issue of ball tampering.
There isn't. You rightly say this is not a grey area. This is, we said it before, this is just blatant cheating. But I think it's a time to address all that, let some certain things go and get on with it.
Yeah.
But the staggering thing, which to me I still can't get my head around, is who thought in a meeting. Yeah. I hate these little terms for little groups of people. The leadership group, bummy neck. It's like, come on, it's not middle management. Let's get on with it. Who thinks, you know what, it's a good idea, this is a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We'll take something out onto the pitch where we can rough the ball up. That is the one thing that is staggering.
But Fred, can you imagine a situation? This is unbelievably acrimonious series, right? They don't like each other at all. The two teams have been at each other's throats. There's been a ton of sledging. Can you imagine any circumstances where you're in the bubble? You've completely lost perspective. You're with a couple of other players and you're thinking, how can we beat these so-and-sos? And you've come up...
These so-and-sos? Wow. Wow.
You come up with a plan that in the cold light of day you would never, ever dream of doing. Have you ever been in a situation where... No.
No, but you say in the cold light of day, what? The cold light, you're in a meeting, you're probably in a hotel room in a 5-star hotel. Yeah, it's not like you're making a decision about to escape from Alcatraz. You know, you're in an hotel room. I just can't understand the thought process that Australia, right? This is Australia. We're not talking about, you know, some Tom Noddy team who can't win a game and they need to find something to do. You're talking about Australia. They beat us all winter. Yep. They reckon they're so good, they play so fair. We'll push the boundaries and we'll have a go at people, but we never cross the line. Yep. Who's thought this is a good idea? Yep. When did Australia become so inferior, so unconfident to think, against South Africa, these aren't a good team, these South Africans. Line them up. Yep. They're not a great team. They think we are this desperate that we now have to start bringing things out onto the pitch, right in your pocket to scratch the ball. Not long ago, everyone's going on about Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins and the fast bowlers, how great they are. Yep. Well, now this puts everything else. This questions everything.
Do you
when the
think-
ball was reverse swinging
dead right.
in Australia this winter, were they scratching it? Did they have some yellow tape on the fingers? Did they have something in their underpants? You know,
It cast an incredibly long shadow, and that was exactly the thought that jumped into my mind. What was going on? Have they done it before? Was there a precedent? And also, I wonder whether or not the shadow that's cast over Australian cricket. Steve Smith, what a fantastic player, brilliant batsman. If he resigns, would it be an extraordinary thing that one judgment, that terrible judgment call, could be the thing that stays with. Do you think
as a journalist, then,
Yeah.
Matthew, we talked about Jamie Carragher a couple of weeks ago, didn't we?
Good point. Yeah.
You know,
I'd sooner get done for scratching a ball than gobbing on someone's head.
yeah, no, I'm with you, but we were talking about, should these people keep their job? So you're talking about Steve Smith resigning. Should he resign, Matthew, as a journalist? And you were writing a piece on it. Do you think, is it him? Is it the leadership group? Who should take the blame for this? And what should the consequences be as a journalist?
Well, I think it's interesting, this, Rob, because the Prime Minister of Australia has come out and said that
It's been a
Steve
quiet week in Australia, isn't it?
yeah, it's
Is
true.
that the best
yeah,
thing?
that's it. But don't you think, Fred, it shows that Australian cricket is one of the most important cultural
national
institutions. Pride. Yeah, I mean, it was one of the ways they developed their national self-esteem, beating the old colonial master. I mean, it's a massive issue for them, I think, in cultural terms. And it's not just the Prime Minister, the Sports Minister. So they're now pressuring Cricket Australia to say, I mean, he probably will have either resigned or have been sacked by the time that listeners are listening to this podcast.
You think he will, Matthew? Yeah.
I do. And to be honest, Rob, I think it is the right thing to do, because often you make a mistake and you can learn from it. And I'm sure he'll learn from this. But he knew at the time he did it. This was a black and white issue. He was going.
Who has the final say then, Fred? Is it the boss or is it the captain? Could the captain have said no?
Stop banging table.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Could the captain have said no?
Well, ultimately the decision is Bancroft's. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but the pressure on you, as Matthew said, he said he felt nervous. So if he'd have said no, I'm not doing it.
I just can't fathom the conversation that's got. I'm trying to get my head around the conversation.
Yeah.
To think,
Great point.
as adults, as experienced cricketers, as a coach, as a captain, this is a good idea. To then have this conversation with the lad Bancroft, go to him and say, we got this plan, will you do it? Knowing full.
How many caps has Bancroft had, Matthew? Do you know? Is he a youngster in the side?
He's pretty good. But then what happens is them sort of things will get lumped on the young player.
Yeah.
I used to, as a 17-year-old, I remember I played a game and Matthew Hayden was playing against us for Hampshire and he got 90 odd overnight, and it was agreed in a team meeting by the Lancashire lads and these were like all the older players that someone should start sledging him. And everyone pointed at me because I was the youngest, so I had a right crack at him.
Really?
But you're under pressure to do it. But
they said that you had to. I mean, weren't you in the least powerful position to make a sledge really impact upon him?
Yeah, but nobody else wanted to do it. So
Right.
it was back in the days of junior player. You do as you're told. So
Yeah.
I fielded at Silly Point and called him all sorts, and he got out. So everyone thought it was great.
He's only played 7 tests, Bancroft. If he'd have been a more experienced player, and made hundreds and made 50s, he might have said, "Well, I'm not doing that," because he's only played.
Stop banging your foot now.
No.
Keep still. What are you doing?
I'm just trying to picture it when I was a youngster and I was, not a regular in a team, and somebody said, and the captain and the manager and the chairman come up to me and said, "Listen, Robbie, will you do this?" I'd have probably thought, "Yeah, I'll do it."
Has it ever happened
honest.
where they've said, "Go out there"?
Well,
and
football's different, isn't it? Because we talk about cheating, diving. I think that is a spur of the moment thing. On that moment, the only thing I can't liken it in football to anything.
Well, what about a manager saying to you? I mean, imagine Mark Hughes, your hero, had said to you, "There's a player in the opposition team. He's really dangerous. I want you to go out and boot him hard early. Either get him off the pitch or do something that's going to compromise his ability to hurt us." Has that ever happened to you? Because we hear that in dressing rooms there's stuff that is discussed that isn't necessarily within the rules but gets you an unfair advantage. Would you have taken it on board?
See, a manager would never go out and say, "Go and hurt somebody." That has never happened to me personally. A manager would say, you're playing against
What did he say? Let him know you're around.
Yeah, let him know you're there. Yeah, let him know you're there. But Matthew, on the football field, if I had opportunity to with my opponent, I could win the ball fairly and smash him at the same time. That's what I would do. I would never intentionally go out to hurt somebody, but of course I would try and gain every advantage. But every advantage you would suggest is not premeditated in football.
Okay, but let me ask you this then. Imagine, have you ever been in the team, in a dressing room, where somebody has dived? So you agree that's cheating. If there's no
With
contact,
no contact,
right,
I think.
Let's say no contact, a player's gone down. Michael Owen did it for England. Now, retrospectively, you get into the dressing room. Would a manager at that point say what you did was wrong? Or if the manager doesn't say anything about it, he's implicitly giving you the freedom to do it next time. It's kind of a dynamic of cheating.
It's completely different, though, to doing what?
Why?
It's a good,
Why is it completely different? If you just fall on the floor and you've had no contact, you fall on the floor, you get no contact, and I've seen them do it. They're pathetic, and everyone runs over congratulating him for falling up for and winning the penalty. You must, and then he takes it. You've cheated. You've taken an unfair advantage, you win the game. What's the difference?
Yeah, because when we talked about this before, Robbie, you've tried to say that if it isn't premeditated...
Why are you getting all aggressive with me? He's got this look on his face, he's all aggressive.
Who, Fred?
He hasn't slept for 3 days.
I'm so tired.
Yeah, so don't get aggressive with me. Matthew, you must...
Why?
It's completely... Well, I'll tell you for why.
Why?
So that is a team meeting. So in a team meeting...
In a team meeting, it's about to say, if you get box, dive.
What?
Isn't it a team meeting in football? Of course they do.
But
they mentioned diving, of course
But
they
you
do.
imagine, okay.
Come on, Robbie Savage.
They probably put that,
dive.
You know as well as I do, Matthew, football is instinctive. And if you're running to the...
diving is predetermined.
It's not.
How can it not be when you don't
for
get
a split second, if you're running into the box at full speed, Matthew, and the keeper comes charging out, and then you're anticipating contact, and you think, right, he's gonna touch me here. I'm gonna avoid the challenge and then collapse my legs. That is that is not like
to dive
2 hours before saying, right, I'm telling you what you do. Every time you get into the box, dive.
So hang on, all right then. So the diving, aren't you? You're saying it's a dive.
What?
You're saying it's a dive.
If
you're saying that is what you've just explained. You've then described as a dive.
But there's different types.
No.
Yeah.
So why don't you predetermine? Why don't you say we're not going to dive? It's cheating.
Exactly.
So if you can decide you're going to go through all that rigmarole, which is obviously not predetermined, but you've just described it very eloquently.
Yeah.
But it's not predetermined. It's predetermined. So you can predetermine not to dive.
It's completely different.
Think about it, Rob.
You call footballers thick all the time. How thick are these Australians to do what they've done? So don't call footballers thick.
Yeah, I'm under no dispute.
What?
They're still cleverer than the footballers, but this is thick. They're Australian cricketers.
There's big question marks now.
They're Australian cricketers. They're not designed to be clever. And we've seen here, haven't we? They're designed to be useful at cricket.
You can't say diving is the same as doing what Australians done,
but
surely.
what I am saying...
What?
I'm saying...
So
this is like one of my lines in the play. Own up to it, you were cheating. That's what I say on stage.
I'll tell you what, Robbie, if a manager said to a player, you dive, there's no contact, and you go down, you're not going to play for this team again, that premeditation, that spontaneity that you're saying happens when people dive, it would suddenly miraculously disappear. And I think Fred's right.
But that's nonsense, Matthew. That's nonsense, because you imagine Pep Guardiola saying to Kevin De Bruyne, I tell you what, if you dive, you're never going to play for me ever again. A commodity who's worth 150 million quid.
That may be a little bit extreme, but
so there you go. So you can't. It's across the board. You've got an Altrincham player or a Bristol Rovers player or a Wrexham player, and the manager says,
"Stop banging your foot."
Tell you what, if you dive, you're never going to play for me again. It's a difference between Jose Mourinho saying to Lukaku, "Tell you what, if you dive, you're never going to play for me ever again." Let me put it in a different way, Rob.
It's
a nonsense argument, Matthew.
Okay.
I would do you know what I would as a coach? If I can't, even though I mentioned before about some of the things you play around with the rules a little bit, is that this, as a coach, to have this conversation with the player being on it, is...
If you got the England job, we've
stop banging your foot.
Sorry, I'm getting aggressive with you. So you were the England coach. You get the job.
Yeah.
Where is the line when you're the coach to say where's the line? Where's the line in terms of cheating in cricket?
In cheating,
if you edge it and you know you edge it, and there's no VAR, are you not walking?
I didn't walk, so
There you go.
I wouldn't tell anyone to walk.
So there you go. So that's cheating. So you're advocating cheating if you're a coach.
It's not cheating.
Well, there you go then.
Well, if you let me finish, I'll tell you.
Okay.
It's not cheating because there's a bloke there to make a decision. You shout, "How is that?" I don't know why. And everyone turns around as they look at a bloke in an ice cream man suit. And then he either sticks his finger up, which is the wrong finger for the gesture he needs to make. And then you stand there and let him make his decision.
That's a fair point. But surely morally, if you've edged it, you should go.
Well, morally, it's probably on a par with diving.
So you're the coach now.
It is complex.
You're the coach of Australia now.
Yeah.
What would you do to Steve Smith?
But also as well, this is where you miss. Also, another point to it.
You were going to say missing a point, yeah?
No, not missing a point. Is where it's not as embarrassing, to be honest with you. You got to live with yourself just falling on the floor as a grown man. You know, at least if you like miss it and you hit it, you don't get given out. You don't have to go through the indignity of rolling around as if you're in agony in front of 40,000 people and millions on TV.
Well, I can't wait to see you in Sport Relief, Mark and Usain Bolt. I'm commentating on that on ITV, and I'm going to every time you go near it, you fall over, you're getting it.
Well, why am I going to fall over?
Well, you're going to be chasing Usain Bolt.
I won't be chasing him. He won't be getting past me.
Oh, right.
With or without the ball.
Oh, really? Right. But if you were... So,
Rob, I saw him last
think
time. Did his hamstring? I'll catch him.
Go on, Matthew.
I was going to say, don't you think the social dynamic... I agree with you. The manager's never going to say to a player, you dive and you're never going to play again. But my sense is, tell me if this is wrong, that in football dressing rooms and on the terraces, if an opposition player dives, people are all over them. Disgraceful, absolutely horrible.
And somebody of their own team does it.
Yeah, often. Like when Owen did it for England and you went down, we hardly ever discussed that episode of what was effectively, I think, cheating. But we do talk about... So in other words, I think in a dressing room, if a manager doesn't really go after a player who's cheated when it benefits the team... That is implicitly condoning the... But what Fred was saying, I agree with too, that it's unbelievably complex.
So Michael Owen said it on BT, the score show I'm on. He told the story, and just check this, so it's true. Mm-hmm. Well, it's true, I was there. Michael Owen said about Kalina was refereeing in a game.
Yeah,
I think it was what?
What?
Kalina. It was
Luigi.
So in that Argentina game, Michael Owen went into the box. There was contact, he didn't go down, and he said it should have been a penalty. Mm-hmm. And he looked at the referee, Kalina, and Kalina said, Michael, you have to go down. So that's why the next time he went to the box, under the challenge, which was very, very, very slight, he went down and got given a penalty. So you've got referees saying to go down.
But bagging your foot. The other thing was, I've been tying myself... I just listening back to what we were talking about, I've been tying myself in knots on this subject. And this is a strange thing because... You talk about diving, which I think is pathetic, and it is on a par with not walking when you hit it, you're bending the rules. So I'm tying myself in knots. So getting back to my original point about whether you put mints on the ball or throw the ball around in the outfield, it's more word you draw up. This needs to be addressed in full.
In the rules.
And it's all right, everyone getting the knickers in a twist and pointing the finger at Australians, but it's been going on for a long time now. Let's address every part of this. But... The thing I still can't get my head around.
So what you're saying, ball tampering is ball tampering. No. Ball tampering is ball tampering, whatever level.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
There's morally probably degrees, but it's not. You either ball tampering or you're not. It's not because you got a mint in your mouth and you're putting it on the ball, it's fine. But then a fella can't scratch it with a piece of whatever he's got in his pocket. Because morally one's worse than the other. You're either ball tampering or you aren't ball tampering.
But where do you?
I know you. Yeah,
but I know
what you mean. Yeah.
If you were now on the rule making committee,
yeah, I wouldn't be, would I? Let's be honest.
No, but if you are,
I've got better things to do.
But if you are, good question. This one is.
You're going to allow people to rub the ball against their trousers, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to allow that. You're going to allow them to use their saliva.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you allow them to put sun cream? Actually, you can't.
How can you stop it? You can't tell people not to wear sun cream.
Exactly. And you can't tell them not to wear lip balm.
No, you can tell them not to chew gum or suck mints. But I don't know, to be honest. But the thing is about this, getting back to the Australian, I just can't understand the conversation that has gone on. Darren Lehman, who, don't get me wrong, I'm a massive fan of, both as a player, as a person, which even surprises me more. I said when he got the job and over the past couple of years, I think he's been a breath of fresh air for cricket. everyone goes down this route of hiring a certain type of coach, and this is how he should behave, where he's just come and done it his own way, give power back to the players in some ways. He believes in them, he speaks passionately. So for him to do this is bonkers. Bancroft, I feel a little bit sorry for as well. Mm-hmm. That he's been put up in front of the press, he's got to talk about it. The coach wasn't with him, the captain was there. And he's in a press conference not knowing what he should say. Should I get people into hot water with me? Should I take it on the chin for the team? What should I do? And he's a young lad, not played too much. On the other side of it is where I've got no sympathy. Was during the Ashes when there was a little bit of a scuffle with Johnny Burstow. He was milking the life out of it. Yeah. How is it now, son? How are you getting on there, lad? Yeah.
Does it matter, Matthew? This is a question on Fred. So, if you're saying Steve Smith should resign, yeah?
Do you know what?
So, does it matter? I see. This is a big question. Or should he be sacked? Does it matter the standing you have in that side? Because Steve Smith is the captain and the best player, are they not cutting their nose off to spite their face if they sack him because he is their best player? If that was a lesser player who was the captain, yeah, would they get rid of him because it's easier too and he's not such a big name?
What do you think? I don't think that they're going to get rid of Steve Smith out of the side. I think he'll lose the captaincy because in cricket that is a big deal. You're the leader of the team. You're supposed to set the example. I think in the rules of cricket it says that if a player misbehaves, the captain is ultimately responsible. So I think he's going to lose the captaincy.
I hate to say it. I just don't think you can carry on.
You can't carry on.
I just think...
I don't think you can, as captain.
If the coach is in a tricky situation as well. You remember years ago, Michael Atherton did it. He had dirt in his pocket, and he spread it on the ball to try and dry it, to try and get it reverse swinging. So his foot is like this, and he put his hand in his pocket, he pulled it out, and he gave it the ball a rub with a bit of dirt.
Did he?
Yeah, and that was massive news at the time, and he had press hounding him. And that's lived with him now for the rest of his career, like Michael Atherton.
I didn't know that.
Dirt in his pocket.
Well, Michael Atherton done that?
Yeah, maybe it didn't live with him then, but
wow,
it was big news. So Steve Smith is now the lad who's the captain who let one of his players cheat. Bancroft, a bit of lad who had that stuff in his pocket, and Lima the coach.
Was Michael Atherton captain at the time?
Yeah, I think he was, yeah.
So he took upon himself to do it. So this is different, isn't it, slightly? Because at least Michael Atherton... took it upon himself.
In all fairness to others, and this is a person, he took it on the chin. Anybody else involved just took it. I made a mistake. I did it, and I have plenty of respect for that. I think in some ways the Aussies, they put him up in these press conferences, and it's who said, she said, he said. Why don't you just say, you know what, we've done it, haven't we? We're sorry. We've made a grave error. Take a Donald Trump tactic. Just front it out.
There's no way he can carry on as captain for me. No way. But he should play again for Australia, Matthew.
He's going to play again for Australia. Of course he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially now because it's the Prime Minister's involved in everyone. Heads are going to roll, aren't they?
How damaging is this for Australia in a sporting context?
I don't think it'll affect the economy. Even though the pound has got stronger in the past few days.
Matthew?
I think it's very, very significant for Australia. I mean, obviously, it's not as big as an economic recession, but I think the image of Australia, Freddie got to the heart of it earlier. Australians like to think of their sports teams, their cricket team, as tough but fair. They know how to go up to the line. They know how to exploit every legal advantage, but they don't cross it. That all started with Alan Border, rugged captain. We are going to do everything we can to win. That sort of square-jawed Australian iconography, I think, is very powerful in the culture. The idea that they were prepared in a premeditated way to ask a junior member of the team to clearly flout the rules, I think has massive repercussions for the way that Australia think about themselves and about their sporting icons.
Just on that, though, you say Australia think of themselves. I think sometimes when it's come to sport and it's come to cricket, the moral compass has been a little bit skewed.
Yeah.
What they think's acceptable and right, I'm not quite sure at times. And Australians have always been, we'll dish it out, but then people come back at us and we'll whinge. South Africa have mixed it up with them and they don't like it. All of a sudden, the Aussies are whinging, this, that, and the other. But on the flip side of that is, you can see how bad they think this is when the outcry is on their own team. Australia attempted a lot of times to be poor us, but we're fine. We don't cross the mark. Yeah. Well, you do, lads, to be honest. You've done it for years and years and years, and now you're you're getting found out.
Just last word on that, Fred. Are you talking about pushing the boundaries in terms of the sledging, the nastiness on pitch?
Yeah, just them words all the time. And the South Africans have gone back at the likes of David Warner. He doesn't like it.
Yeah, fascinating.
However, I've not used that word for quite a while, but I'll put one in there. This has affected everyone. And I imagine Australia now, this will be big news. The public will hate it because Australians think they're the best. They think they're the strongest. They think they're the best cricket team in the world. And to think, actually, we've had to cheat to beat South Africa aren't that good. That is a massive kick in the nuts.
5 Live Boxing.
Hello, Steve Bunce here from the 5 Live Boxing podcast with Costello and Bunce. We'll have you back to Fred, Sav and Syed in a minute. We're not calling the ping pong guy anymore. Anyway, our pod this week comes live. Well, not actually live because we've already recorded it, but recorded live from Anthony Joshua's gym here in Sheffield as he gets ready to take on Joseph Parker this weekend. That's the big man you can hear right now working the pads. We've got all the build-up for you this week with new podcasts on Monday, Wednesday and Friday before our mega post-fight analysis pod, recorded in the middle of the night, by the way, on Saturday, ready for you to listen to as soon as you wake up on Sunday morning. Download or subscribe now. Just search Costello and Bunce.
This is 5 Live Sport.
Our next topic is based around England's 58 all-out against New Zealand, 6th lowest score in Test history. At one point, they were 27 for 9. So what are the beatings we've suffered? How did we come back? Did we deal well with the humiliation? What were we thinking at the time it happened? So humiliation, Rob, do you want to go first?
Have you ever played in a double figures game? Has there ever been one?
No, not when I played it, no. Do you remember Man United beat Ipswich 9-0, I think it was, Fred, in the Premier League?
Mm-hmm. What was the biggest you played in?
Lost 6-0 home to Aston Villa. And the worst thing for me was, and this is where humiliation, so you imagine, Martin O'Neill was one of my first managers, massive inspiration in my career, in my life. Went from a boy to a man, under his tutorship. Good word, eh? Good word, yeah.
But you started growing pubes when you played for Martin O'Neill. Did he do water them?
Where have I gone? So you imagine you were, flying under him, winning. I won a trophy under him. I got on really well with him. I was man of the matches under him, and then
you was under him a lot.
Just start this again. Get
leave it.
Yeah. So
is that how you got your game?
And then he goes to Celtic. And obviously he got Neil Lennon from Leicester. There was rumours that Muzzy Izzet was gonna go there too. But I was never mentioned to go to Celtic. I probably wouldn't have, because I love playing the Premier League, testing myself every single week. And then when I went to Derby in the Premier League season, when we were the worst team with 11 points, Aston Villa were coming to Pride Park under Martin O'Neill. And you imagine that you've gone from this player who he's seen every single week, dominating games, massive influence on the side, to this Derby side where I must say I was woeful and thinking that...
In what way?
Just confidence, couldn't control the ball, couldn't pass it, didn't win it, was hiding, crowd on your back. Really? And then you get beat 6-0 at home by Martin O'Neill's side and you've got to look at the guy in the eye and he must have thought, what has happened to you, Sav? What has happened? And you're trying to make excuses, but realistically that, wow, I've just been humiliated by Aston Villa, but more importantly against the guy who I looked up to, was a massive influence in my career, and he must have thought, wow, what's happened to him?
How did you build back up from there?
That
low point?
I didn't, because it got worse. We ended up with 11 points, but then obviously I went out on loan to Brighton, and then come back to Derby when Paul Jewell left the club and then rebuilt under Nigel Clough. There was another point when Fabregas nutmegged me in the corner at the Emirates. They were 5-2 up.
But you know when something like that happens, is it embarrassing? When you get, is that like in football if you get megged by someone?
Yeah.
Is that like?
So it was 3-2 with about a minute left, and then the injury time board went up was 4 or 5 minutes, and we just hit the bar to go 3-3, and then they scored another, and it was 5-2, And then he's keeping the ball in the corner. I thought, I was just marking him. The game was over. And they turned around, nutmegged me. And then I remember smirking. I remember on match of the day that night, it showed me smirking. I thought, I'm laughing here. People are going to think I'm laughing at him, nutmegging me in the corner. And it was humiliating. You imagine that? Because I never got on with Fabregas. I tried to kick him off the park every time I played against him. What a wonderful player. Great energy, great skill. But to get nutmegged at 5-2... And then, it was another...
Was that like more or less humiliating than putting a Blackburn shirt on every week?
Only because you're from Preston. that was great times. So I was, I've been humiliated a lot. Humiliated when I got the footage of the Justin Edinburgh thing. Humiliating for me, coming out time after time. Because when you do things in your career which you regret later, you're in a good position to talk about them, but so for instance now, if somebody goes down injured and fakes it, and I'm talking about it, is that hypocritical? Is that insight? You're
doing your job, you're talking about
because I've done it.
It's in front of you.
Because I've done it. So I can't really hammer anybody, can I, Matthew, for going down?
No, I know what you mean.
Because I've done it myself.
Yeah.
I've done most things myself.
And it comes back, doesn't it? Because people, they have the highlights reel. And whenever they talk about Robbie Savage, some of the embarrassing stuff that you've done, or some of the things that you most want to forget are going to be resurrected.
This is going to be difficult for Jamie Carragher when he comes back.
Oh, that's going to be a shadow that's going to be there forever.
But the problem is now in a Google world, it goes nowhere,
Exactly.
is it? I said to my kids, just to ignore the first 2 pages if you Google me.
The good thing about... So we're talking about coming back, sorry, Matthew. So Gary Neville, when he went to Valencia, got humiliated against Barcelona, and people said, humiliation as a manager. Can he come back and be a pundit?
Yeah.
Well, he's come back and he's been magnificent.
Tell you what, though,
And he's learned from... And this, he's had a go at being a manager.
Yeah.
And he's got the insight and the knowledge to what it takes to be a manager. Do you know what I mean? Even though he wasn't very good at it. Let's be honest. But credit to him for coming back. Because people were saying, well, how can he be a pundit?
Yeah.
Well, of course he can, because his knowledge of playing football and now his knowledge of being a manager for a short period of time is brilliant. And I think he's a better pundit now than when he left to go to Valencia.
Which goes to show, if you're humiliated, it can sometimes give you the raw material to build up and to learn stuff. I mean,
but it'd be different with Carragher, though. It's one thing being a manager and coming back. Everybody will be walking around with umbrellas when they see him. They'll be like...
Fred, in your
probably were anyway. All right,
in your cricket career, you've been saying that often, if you were at a real low point, you quite liked it because you wanted to.
Well, you got used to it. I played cricket for England. We got embarrassed quite a few times. I remember. One of the first times I was embarrassed on a cricket pitch was as a 9-year-old. I was playing for Lancashire under-11s at Liverpool at Aigburth. It was getting late in the day. I was stood at slip and I needed a wee. I was desperate for a wee. And I didn't ask the umpire if I could go off. When you're in class at school and it's like awkward asking for the toilet because you're not sure if he'll let you go? I thought it was like that. So I stood in the slips. I got my legs wide open. I got my hands on my knees, and he's coming into the ball, and I just weed. And I was just weeding, and the weed was like yellow on my whites and things on the floor. I felt so embarrassed. I was so upset.
To be fair, you used to do that when you were 36 in the bars in Preston and all. That stayed with you.
So weed. I was embarrassed.
Did you get hammered?
Yeah, you got hammered a lot.
I was only 9, Matthew. I was only 9. So yeah, that was that. And then there's been a few times as a cricketer you're embarrassed. West Indies, we got bought out for 50 odd. It happens so many times. The pedal wasn't my finest hour. It was a little bit embarrassing. So yeah, there are these things. But it's interesting you say England as a team used to pride themselves on the fact after an embarrassing performance, we usually win the next one, unless we're in Australia. One of the other ones was, we played at Headingley, where Yorkshire played. And you go there as a Lancashire player, and it's one of the few times people watch county cricket, and it's full, and everyone gets on your back and the hammer you. But it's good fun. But then as an England player, you think you're going to get a better reception from the crowd. And to begin with, I didn't. My first 2 test matches at Headingley, the first one was against South Africa. I got 0-0 in the game. So I got a pair.
Yeah.
Went there again 2 years later to play against India. Got 0-0. I had 2 shocking decisions. So I got my Audi badge, zeros, and coming off the pitch then to the Yorkshire crowd, just abusing me. Send him back over at Pennies. Get him back to Lancashire. That lad is crap. So you're coming off and you're just getting hammered. And I never forget, in the dressing room, there used to be a sauna in the head of the dressing room. It wasn't a flash one. It was just like this wooden box. I just wanted to hide, so I sat in there and the sauna was on, and I was sat there in my pads and my gloves and my helmet in a sauna at about 100 degrees, just crying my eyes out. I've got another duck at Headingley.
Well, I think I think it gives you more resilience if you have these moments. If you actually take the risk of trying something new.
Oh, hang on a minute. I know what you're doing here. You're about to plug a book, aren't you?
No.
You're about to.
No.
What is it? Dare to fail? Come on, Matthew.
Well,
Come on, tell us about your book.
Well,
this is pathetic.
When I was in primary school, no, I'm not.
No,
mentioning
don't tell me
a
the
book.
long story. You just want to plug your book.
No, I'm not mentioning a book. We're doing it as a topic on the next show.
Next show.
I was in Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And
Right, Matthew, we have to stop right there. You was in it.
Yeah.
Sing it.
I didn't have to say. I only had a line. I was
you know
Jacob.
You know the song, Jacob. You know the song, Joseph. Come on. I close my eyes. Go on.
Draw back the curtains to see for certain what I thought I knew. And in my
far away.
Oh, yeah, gosh, yeah. Can't remember the next bit.
Someone was weeping while the world was sleeping.
Any dream will do.
A crash of lungs, a flash of lights. My God. Do you know any from Popular as well? Do you know from Wicked? No, go on, carry on with your story.
Go on, Matthew.
So I was Jacob, and so I'm 9 years old. My parents are there. My grandparents are there. Totally full. Aldrington Primary School, main room. And I totally forgot my line. And I was really worried when I came off. That
There's
Dad,
only one line?
we're kids. I only had one line. It was something to do with, can't exactly remember what
Jesus.
it was. It was something to do with Jesus. And I've got to tell you, Fred, I was so worried that my dad would have a go at me. I thought he was going to say, how could you possibly, you only had one line, how could you forget that, how could you embarrass, and he smiled and he said, you know what, it's fantastic you gave it a go, son, it will get easier next time around. And that's what I think, humiliation. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, so Neville failed at Valencia. He's now a fantastic pundit. You got bowled out against the West Indies. You recovered. You had a fantastic cricketing career. Imagine how bad it would be if you never put yourself in the lineup.
All right, yeah, I get that, but then it's so. I understand you don't get any runs, you forget your lines, humiliation.
Yep.
We've just been talking about Steve Smith and Bancroft.
Yeah.
How about that for humiliation?
Yeah.
You don't live that one down, do you?
That's a moral thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not a performance anxiety issue. It's not like you were shown wanting because you didn't quite deliver in the way you knew you could. That's where you made a decision to break the rules. I think that's more humiliating. I think that's a more difficult thing to recover from.
I spoke about on here as well, about humiliation, haven't I? About training with the academy at Derby when I was captain, when I played 350 Premier League games, and then obviously wasn't in the manager's plans, and then was asked to train with the youth sides, going in every day, and that was humiliating. Yeah. For me personally, to bounce back from that was hard, but it was amazing to think that you've got through stuff in your careers and then have come out better the other side.
It's probably made you a better broadcaster.
Yeah,
dealing with the abuse on Twitter.
Yeah,
same for Fred.
all the stuff.
Yeah.
How are you going to deal with the abuse when you get beaten by Robbie Savage at tennis, Matthew?
It's not going to happen, Fred.
That will be humiliating.
You've got to do that before the end of the series.
That is not going to happen. Thank you, guys, and thank you for listening. If you missed any of the shows we've done to date, they're available to download at the 5 Live website and all the usual podcast places. Please use the hashtag FredSavSide to get in touch through the week. If you could leave a review on iTunes and give us a rating, that would be great. We'll try and read some of the more creative ones out on a future pod. We're taking a break next week, but we'll be back in a fortnight at the same time. But for now, from all of us, goodbye.
Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy.
Thank you for downloading the Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy podcast. If you like what you hear, then why not have a look at what else 5 Live podcasts have to offer at bbc.co.uk/5live.